Hello everyone, today I'm going to tell you a story about a game studio that surreptitiously snuck music from a decades-old game series into one of the best games of 2023, but you would never know because of how perfectly these songs fit their context. Yes, we're talking about Lies of P. If you had told me that one of my favorite modern games would be the love child of Pinocchio and Bloodborne, I would have assumed I was in a strange Estus-fueled fever dream. But it works. Lies of P takes the smooth combat and gameplay of From Software's Bloodborne and layers it atop a grim reimagining of the classic Pinocchio tale from Italian author Carlo Collodi. But this video is not a review, except for this next sentence. Go play it or watch it streamed, because it is one of the most compelling games I've played in the last several years, with super smooth but challenging combat and a cast of characters whose stories slowly reveal a world that gets deeper and darker as the game unfolds. Anyway, on this channel we talk about music, and for Lies of P that requires us to dive into the records that you can collect throughout the game. However, for a discussion about these records to make sense, we do need a little bit of background. Pinocchio is, spoilers ahead, a puppet. Oh, you already knew that. Okay, well his creator/father is Geppetto, who in this world is considered an expert craftsman of puppets. That's right, there are lots of puppets in this world, serving humanity in a variety of ways. At least they were until the puppet frenzy hit, mysteriously liberating the puppets from the grand covenant which directed their behavior, leaving them free to rebel against the humans as they saw fit. But back to Pinocchio, because while he may not be the only puppet, he is still unique. He alone among all the puppets was created with the ability to lie. This is a big part of the story, with the player only able to access the main hub area by telling a lie. Throughout the game, Pinocchio is given the opportunity to tell truths or lies, and contrary to the original story, where being honest is a requirement for the Blue Fairy to turn him into a real boy, in this game, lying is what brings Pinocchio closer and closer to humanity. After all, what is more human than willful deceit?
Am I a real boy?
This theme of what does it mean to be human is at the core of Lies of P, and the player is granted choices and opportunities to engage in actions that cause Pinocchio to become more human. One of these is to listen to the records that are acquired throughout the game at the hotel's gramophone. Here is a list of all the records you can get in the game, but what strikes me as the most interesting thing is that none of these songs are original to Lies of P. This isn't like other instances of game studios licensing music for a game. No, the publisher NeoWiz already owned all these tracks. Almost every single record in Lies of P is drawn from another game series developed by NeoWiz, djmax. djmax is an action rhythm game like DDR or Guitar Hero, which was first released in 2004 with djmax Online. The player is presented with 4 buttons, which they must use to read inputs accurately, while an anime-style music video plays in the background. The EDM songs are all original to each game. At the time of development for Lies of P, NeoWiz was working on djmax Respect 5, a reboot of the original series, and so it was easy enough to incorporate these songs into Lies of P. I don't want to make this video too long by going through every track that made it into Lies of P, but there are a few I want to look at closely. I'm going to go through them in their original forms, then talk about how they were adapted for Lies of P. Also, I'm going to avoid any spoilers until much later in this video, so until I tell you otherwise, everything is all good. Feel is probably the first record players are going to get, acquired from a fetch quest for an old lady in Elysian Boulevard. In its original version, it's a dance track by DJ Mocha. The singer is inviting the listener to dance, and the beat and backup singers make it a hard offer to refuse. The primary lyric, "Close your eyes, come to me, feel alright," is accompanied by a video that shows a girl awaiting a man walking through the rain, but it turns out he is a vampire, maybe? And he is on his way to turn her with a potion. More on this later. The next record accessible is Divine Service, collected from a nun in the cathedral who is suffering a crisis of faith after the archbishop she trusted in took a dive off the deep end. The original track by Electronic Boutique does not have true lyrics, only moments of voiceover, but the video depicts a young man, some sort of holy woman, and an assassin. While it's not entirely clear, it seems that perhaps the young woman does not love the young man as he loves her, and writes a note in blood asking the assassin to murder him. One internet user theorizes that she resents him for taking her purity. Regardless, it is clear that the woman is unhappy with her situation and seeks help from outside to help sort it out. Once Pinocchio has passed through the grand exhibition, he is given the choice to help a pair of characters he encounters. If the player chooses to, they are awarded with the record Quixotic. The original track is upbeat like all of them, and the lyrics describe a person who refuses to stop fighting in the face of struggle. "'Cause I would fight, let it be the cold rain, be it battle I cannot survive, or another cursed spirit coming from the tide." There's even a line about "unleash the giants, loosen the horse, define the heights, behold your sight for those windmills," which is a clear reference to the 1615 Spanish story of Don Quixote, from whose name the word quixotic, meaning exceedingly idealistic, unrealistic, and impractical, is derived. This absolutely is reflected within the themes of the game, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Early on at the hotel, the player meets a young girl named Eugenie who will fix up your weapons. Later in the game, you are given a chance to tell Eugenie a lie or a truth about part of her questline. I won't spoil the story here, but you receive a different record based on which you choose. If you tell a lie, you'll be rewarded with Far East Princess, whereas if you tell her the truth, you'll receive Proposal Flower Wolf Part 1. Far East Princess is a song about waiting for that brief moment each day when you get to see someone you're enamored with. But the accompanying music video adds an interesting context. In the video, a fairy watches a handsome young man from afar, growing more and more in love with him. Finally, she decides to relinquish her fairy form and become human so that they can be together. It's like a Korean take on The Little Mermaid. Proposal Flower Wolf Part 1 tells a story about a tribe in which a person who wants to get married must give a very particular flower to the one they choose. This flower can only be found blooming from the heart of a wolf that lives north of the village. The boy finds the wolf and kills him, acquiring the flower and winning over his intended bride. Late in the game, Sophia is found in a pickle. Sophia guides Pinocchio throughout the game, filling the role of the blue fairy from the original story. She gets trapped and Pinocchio must help her. Upon assisting Sophia, the player gets the record Shadow Flower. The original track in Korean is a song about someone who feels trapped and is asking the listener to take them away from their dark prison. Somewhat on the nose with the story, but there's even more to unpack once we get into the spoiler section. The video even depicts a blue fairy trapped inside a glass bottle, helplessly watching as the massive tree that houses the fairies is cut down. In the end, she escapes, and her tears stimulate new growth on the stump, hope for the future. The final record available in the game is Memory of Beach. It can be acquired after the player completes Antonia's questline. She is the owner of the hotel, but is afflicted with the same plague that has decimated the city's population. However, the original version does not give that vibe.
djmax.
It's an upbeat song about leaving behind life's troubles and living it up at the beach with a colorful, energetic video to match. Yeah, weird juxtaposition, but again, we'll talk about that in a minute. So these are the songs from djmax that got inserted into Lies of P, but you wouldn't know it from listening to the records in the hotel, and it's probably just as well. Hearing EDM in this setting would be a little immersion breaking. So let's talk about how these songs were adapted to fit the setting of Lies of P. Well, first, what is the setting of Lies of P? It's described as 19th century Belle Époque, and if that term doesn't ring a bell from your history classes, then join the club. The Belle Époque, or Beautiful Era in French, is a period in Western European history generally considered to range from the 1870s right up until the outbreak of World War I in 1914. It was named in hindsight as a sort of golden age between the horrors of the Napoleonic Wars and World War I. La Belle Époque was characterized by unusual political stability in Europe, and the only wars that happened during this time were conflicts of imperialism, fought primarily in Africa and Asia. As such, society in France flourished, unless you were poor or working class, and we obtained such hallmarks as the Moulin Rouge Cabaret, burlesque shows, the Can-Can, and the Eiffel Tower. This period of peace and prosperity also paved the way for all sorts of scientific and artistic innovations. French scientific advances of this era include the moped, the neon light, cinema technology, the germ theory of disease, and pasteurization. Artistically, there was a transition from Impressionism to post-Impressionist movements, such as Symbolism, Early Modernism, Cubism, and Abstraction. Musically, which is what I consider most for this channel, there was a shift away from the large-scale symphonic and programmatic romanticism exemplified in Berlioz's Symphonie Fantastique to a smaller-scale salon style. Salon music was intended to be simpler and more accessible to a general audience, with a focus on melodies with accompaniment, often performed by solo piano, voice, or violin. Along with salon music came a rise in popularity of waltzes and operettas, genres not altogether considered serious music, but enjoyable to the public. Lies of P places us in a pseudo-apocalyptic version of this period. The scientific advances are exaggeratedly portrayed in the puppets, while the fashion, architecture, and specifically music all convey the Belle Époque. Now granted, the associate producer H. Sun Choi admits that he was not interested in imposing strict period requirements on the music, so there are certainly elements of these tracks that are anachronistic for the Belle Époque setting. Nevertheless, when compared with their EDM roots, these tracks have clearly been adapted with the setting in mind. One of the key elements is the salon style, the solo instrument or voice presenting a beautiful melody with restrained accompaniment. We hear this in Feel, Quixotic, and Shadow Flower, with a singer only supported initially by sparse piano chords, as contrasted to the driving rhythms of the originals. The others also have solo melodies, but played by an instrument. The instrument matters though. Typically, these records use voice, piano, violin, guitar, and bandoneon, or some combination thereof. What's a bandoneon, you ask? It's a type of concertina, similar to an accordion, though slightly mellower in tone. Importantly, it suits the Belle Époque time period. The bandoneon was invented in the mid-19th century and really rose in popularity towards the end of the 1800s, right when this game is set. Also, mad props to NeoWiz here because they actually found a bandoneon player to record on the soundtrack. Nowadays, so many game composers rely on software emulations of instruments to achieve particular sounds, and Wikipedia's list of prominent bandoneon players is extremely short, with only 8 still surviving, so they really committed to going that extra mile for authenticity. Divine Service, Far East Princess, and Proposal Flower Wolf feature the bandoneon heavily, while the first two also involve the violin weaving in and out of the melody with the bandoneon. Memory of Beach is the outlier here, since instead of having a solo melody supported by accompaniment, it's essentially just a work for piano that a voice is humming along with. However, if you consider that the salon approach to music was meant to promote a sense of intimacy, it's hard to imagine anything more intimate than someone sort of absent-mindedly humming along while someone else plays a familiar song on the piano. But enough surface-level description, because a big part of musical analysis is creating a theory of why, or the effect produced by certain choices the composer makes. So let's talk about the why. Why were these records chosen not just for the game, but for the particular quest lines that reward you with them? Starting at this point, there will be spoilers for major story elements, so consider yourself warned. Going back to Feel, the first one you can get. It's given to the player by the old lady in Elysian Boulevard, who asks Pinocchio to bring her baby back to her. She has been afflicted by the petrification disease that plagues the city, and her baby was taken from her for its protection. She desperately wants to hold and see her child one last time before the disease takes her eyesight. What Pinocchio finds, however, is a doll of a child that the woman believes is her daughter. It can easily be inferred that perhaps Feel is a song that the woman sang as a lullaby to her supposed child, with the lyrics, "Close your eyes, come to me, feel alright," clearly meant to comfort and calm. As for the dance all through the night, well, any parents out there can tell you that when it comes to soothing a child to sleep, no songs are off the table, including party songs, as long as you sing them calmly. So what about the video of the vampire turning the girl? It probably has nothing to do with Lies of P, but it is not entirely unrelated to themes within the game. For one, being turned into a vampire raises questions about what it is to be or feel human in the first place, which is of course the main point of the game. But it also parallels the changes happening around the city as people lose their humanity to the petrification disease, and on a more personal level, the choice made by a key character to give up his humanity and become a puppet in order to stave off the illness. The record Divine Service being given to you by a nun is pretty on the nose and doesn't require a lot of theorizing to reach a connection, but how does the video relate to the character of Cecile and her relationship with the Archbishop? Well, we don't get a lot of information about the relationship of the characters in the video. We can only surmise that the assassin was hired by the nun to kill the man named Ban, who seemed very fond of the nun. In Lies of P, Cecile leaves us a written confession with a record that admits to having murdered innocent people in the past and claiming that the Archbishop saved her from the monster inside of her. However, when we find the Archbishop, he doesn't look to be entirely unaffected by the monster inside of him either. So again, there may be no connection between the video and the game, but there are clearly reflections. For example, the idea that even as humans in the game are turned into monsters by the disease, that doesn't necessarily mean that there weren't already monsters lurking inside each of us. Quixotic may be my favorite track in the game, but it's hard to choose. I love the lyrics about never giving up on a fight, no matter how hopeless it may seem, and the clear reference to Don Quixote. What makes it even better is that you acquire the record from the Red Fox. The fox is revealed to be related to a very powerful family within Krat, but left it behind to join a group of stalkers who protect the city. At some point, she teamed up with the Black Cat, who she believed to be her little brother. The cat is losing his eyesight due to the petrification disease, and she is committed to doing anything, good or bad, to help him recover it and keep him from succumbing. A song about not backing down from a challenge no matter how overwhelming the odds, like staving off a terminal illness, suits the Red Fox perfectly. Far East Princess is gotten from Eugenie, and as mentioned is about a fairy who pines after a human from afar, eventually giving up her fairyhood to be with him. This does not entirely parallel Eugenie's character, but she is indeed enraptured with someone from afar. She remembers as a child being saved from a burning building by the Hound of Krat, Alidoro, and has idolized him ever since. However, there are two important things Eugenie does not know. First, Alidoro was actually her older brother, who abandoned her as an infant for her own safety when he found out about a plot to poison the population. And second, that the man she knows as Alidoro in the game is in fact an imposter. This is revealed when she offers a glove to Alidoro in thanks, with only 4 fingers, remembering that he lost one while rescuing her, but this Alidoro rejects it and derides it because it would not fit his intact hand. Far East Princess is the record you get if you hide the truth from Eugenie about Alidoro being her brother, so she continues to idolize him. If you tell her the truth about the relationship, she instead gives the player Proposal Flower Wolf, which tells a story about a boy slaying a wolf to obtain a flower to present to his beloved. Alidoro and Eugenie's relationship was not romantic, but Alidoro certainly went off to face incredible danger for the sake of protecting his younger sister. The wolf he set out to defeat was in fact the Alchemist Society, which was planning to manipulate the petrification disease to force the next stage of human evolution. Sadly, he failed in his quest, dying at the hands of his partner and never getting to reconnect with his beloved sister. The original Shadow Flower is in Korean, like many of the djmax tracks. In Lies of P, this record is translated into French, more appropriately fitting the Belle Époque setting. The second verse is especially suited for Sophia's situation. Pinocchio discovers that her physical form has been trapped and experimented on in the alchemist's tower, and that her spirit form has been the one guiding him throughout the game. When he finds her, she begs him to end her misery and free her from torment. The lyrics say, "Show me the light, keep me please, take me out of this crushing darkness." Even more interesting is a line that appears in the original version that did not make it into the record version.
You are always there. I wish I could go back in time, but what can I do?
Between repetitions of the chorus, there is a spoken bridge that says, "You're always there. I wish I could go back in time, but what can I do?" Sophia has been watching over Pinocchio since the beginning. It's her voice we hear that initially brings him to consciousness. Each time the player dies, we see this animation of a clock rewinding, and the explanation given in-game is that Sophia is manipulating the immense power of her ergo to actually rewind time and give him another chance. Yet in spite of all of this, her body is trapped in the tower, and she feels powerless to do anything except guide Pinocchio. I wish I could go back in time, but what can I do? It's amazing that this song is simply an adaptation from a game released in 2020 because it feels as though it was written specifically for this character 3 years later. So the final song we're discussing is Memory of Beach, received near the end of the game. The player is given the choice to give Antonia a cure for her petrification disease, which will ease the symptoms but be unable to reverse the damage already done. Antonia will die regardless, but will leave a note hinting at Pinocchio's true identity and thanking him for his kindness along with a record if the player gives her the cure. The original, as I said earlier, is an absolute bop about leaving all of life's worries behind to go live, laugh, love on the beach. In Lies of P, this is reimagined slightly. There are no words, but rather just a woman humming along with the melody. One could imagine that it is Antonia remembering a song from her youth, perhaps? And if so, the lyrics that say, "Let's always smile and never cry while feeling the cool sea breeze. Let's go together, let's all laugh, let's shake off all our worries in the blue sea," take on a much more melancholic meaning. The memories of an old woman near the end of her life, remembering happier times, before the plague took hold of her, before the puppet frenzy ravaged her beloved city and scattered her friends. Of all the records in the game, this one seems the most ill-suited for the characters linked to on the surface, but looking deeper reveals that this one is the most emotionally impactful song of them all, the juxtaposition of happier times with current misfortunes. And of course, as I said before, these records all engage with the core theme of Lies of P, which is, what does it mean to be human? Even just the simple act of putting on a record and listening to music enhances Pinocchio's humanity, but what are the deeper elements? The connection we feel to a loved one, the act of trusting in others, the impulse to never give up in the face of adversity, a fascination with unknown things, the willingness to go further than we thought we could for a loved one, our need for someone or something to cling to in the darkest times, and of course, bittersweet nostalgia, knowing how many wonderful times are behind you, but feeling gratitude because they made you who you are today. I'm certainly no philosopher, nor am I a game critic, but I am someone who is blown away by the music in Lies of P. That sense that each record carried significance to both the characters and the story impressed me enough when I first played the game, but when I discovered that they weren't even written specifically for this game and these characters, amazing! NeoWiz, color me impressed. I hope you've enjoyed hearing about these tracks and how they were adapted from their original forms to perfectly suit this incredible game. If you haven't played or watched it, go check it out or at least find a YouTube playlist of the records. They are well worth a longer listen. If you learned something, I hope you'll like this video and subscribe for more content. What's your favorite record in the game, because I didn't cover all of them? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time.